in prayer as we have been able to today with prayers from all of the faith traditions, and of course all coming from the one true God at this particular time. Um, yeah, I wanted to just maybe share a little with you about a message that the Baha'i world received from the Universal House of Justice, which is the world governing body for all of the Baha'is in the world. And we were, of course, like everyone in the world, we've been trying to explore this particular time in which we are living and trying to make out from it whatever we can learn, as we're also trying to help one another. And so we were delighted in the midst of all of this to receive such a kind and loving message from the Universal House of Justice, which is a body that is elected every 5 years by all of the people of the world in a most wonderful tradition that's helping to advance the way that we think about electing, carrying out elections. That is, all the people in the world, representatives thereof, come together and elect the National Spiritual Assembly every 5 years at the Baha'i World Center in Haifa, Israel. And from this Universal House of Justice, we received a message, and a portion of this I thought might be relevant for us to talk about today as we finish out our prayers. And the prayers, of course, were so beautiful because they were really drawing us into this sense of hope that we have, even as we know that times are somewhat uncertain, and yet we know that with faith in the one God, that we're able to advance. And so the House of Justice wrote and said, however difficult matters are at present, and however close to the limits of their endurance some sections of society are brought, humanity will ultimately pass through this ordeal and will emerge on the other side with greater insight and with a deeper appreciation of its inherent oneness and interdependence. And so certainly just looking at the words just on the page in and of themselves, we can see this sense of hope. And we can see that the Universal House of Justice is calling to our attention that it is well aware that for many segments, some segments of society, some groups of people, this is going to really test our endurance in matters of material means, as we are looking around in our own communities and in communities around the world. And we're, of course, concerned as to making sure that not only our families and our neighbors and people that we know have adequate food and health care and the like, but also that people that we've never met before have the same opportunities. And so we're really trying to strive together and learn about these things together, how we can help each other in this way. And what we know from studying this and reading this together is that we will pass through this ordeal and emerge on the other side with greater insight and deeper appreciation of the inherent oneness and interdependence of all mankind. Hence this photo of all of the hands of the world lifting the world up together. This is the central principle, actually, of the Baha'i faith, and the reason for which Baha'u'llah, the prophet founder of this religion, came. That is to help the people of the world to understand that we actually emerge from a unified source, that we all actually worship one God, and that actually all of the religions of the world that in some cases have been thought as reasons to split people up, divide them, and so forth, are actually the source of our common oneness, our common unity, our belief in the one true God, and the things that we will do to assist one another through the will of God, through the hands of God, and our own hands, which in this particular bodies that we're living in now, that is our means by which we help one another. And so I'm certain that we're all reflecting and sharing with one another what it is that we can offer at this time. Such an unusual time, isn't it? When we can see evidences, one, of yes, certain forces of disintegration, certainly the sadness that emerges when people are maybe distanced from their relatives, when health is in danger and sometimes lives are lost. And at the same time, we see these forces that are drawing people together more and more. I was thinking just quite simply of a few days ago when my neighbors delivered some blueberry pancakes, sent me a text and said, "We've left breakfast on your porch." Very, very kind. Not only is it not something that we normally would have time to do for one another in the morning as we rushed about and went to work, but maybe it wouldn't even have crossed our mind to do this. And of course, my daughter followed up yesterday with cookies for people and delivered those to them as well. So we're seeing these very small, but also great ways in which people are able to look out into their own communities and into the world around them, and to really see this inherent oneness and this interdependence. And so my hope, and I think that's probably why we came here together to pray together, is to really seek out more opportunities to figure out how all of the people of the world, how all of the religious traditions of the world are really uniting people, especially at this time. And so I was truly uplifted to myself when I first received this particular message, to read these words and really to recognize, one, we're going to pass through this. So this is, not, it is not an apocalyptic situation, although it is quite dire. And then to have the hope that on the other side, we can expect that humanity is better. Have you all noticed that there have been a lot of people posting, for instance, on social media saying, we don't want things to go back the way that they were. We want them to go further. We want to advance. We want to make sure that there's a time in which people are looking out for one another, regardless of whether they are men or women, elders or children, whether or not they belong to one religious group or another. We're looking out for ways to find out how we're going to continue to work together as we continue to advance. So maybe we'll have a few moments to talk together about this. But there was just one other part of this letter that I thought was significant, particularly since you all have come together today to pray. And the significance of prayer, we know, it's such a powerful force. I was delighted also to see some of my friends who live in different countries. And in some of those countries, prayer perhaps isn't as well accepted in the population as it is perhaps in the area that I live in. And they were telling me that they were so impressed to see things like doctors in New York City gathered on the roof of a hospital, holding hands together and praying for the patients below. I said, my goodness, where I live, it would not be possible for people to express their love of God in this particular way. But whereas we can do that, and we've been richly blessed to do it across many miles as we're uniting here, even virtually, there was this line in the message from the House of Justice, which to me seemed so intimate. It seemed to be drawing me into very close relationship and communion. And it says, and in your quiet moments, when no course of action other than prayer seems possible, then we invite you to add your supplications to our own and ardently pray for the relief of suffering. And that to me seems so merciful, because I think we probably all collectively share the expression that at certain times it just seems like, even if I have the food that I need, and even if I have the monetary means, what is this world that we are in right now when I cannot move about freely and our work situations have been upended and economies do not seem as though they're going to stabilize for the time being? And just simple things, children who cannot go to school, and some of them perhaps this was the only stable place that they got to go for 6 hours during the day. And now everything has been upended. And so in these quiet moments, hopefully we are all taking advantage of this invitation that the Universal House of Justice has given to us, and that is to join them in prayer. And I also appreciated that the nature of the prayer was also described. That is, to ardently pray for the relief of suffering. And I'm sure that's what we're all united around doing, this afternoon and each day as we've been getting up and praying and really thinking about how will our prayers, as well as our hands that we have been given in this life, how will they assist God in working toward this mission, the one that will sustain peace for all and ensure that the economies are more just, that the equality of men and women can be recognized, and that once and for all, this most great peace, this time in which the people of the world will not be fighting one another over such small and things that they may consider large as well. So it's a blessing to be with you and to just consider these small areas that we can all contribute to in this particular time in our history. And I understand maybe we would have a little bit of conversation around this subject. I don't know exactly how we want to moderate that, but I'm happy to continue the conversation.